On February 10th, Russian missiles, which were intended to bombard peaceful Ukrainian cities and civilian infrastructure, violated Moldovan airspace and approached the border of NATO member Romania. Bucharest even had to redirect fighter jets to the northern part of the country, which at that time were on a training flight, the Washington Post writes. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky called this maneuver of the Russian caliber a challenge for the entire alliance. Ukrainian intelligence has repeatedly reported the Kremlin may decide to attack Moldova as well. At the end of 2022, the head of the Moldovan Security Service, Alexandru Musteata, also stated that the risk of an invasion was very high. In this regard, the US and the EU increased assistance to Moldova, especially in the military sphere, because without support for the country, which we recall does not intend to join the alliance, it will be difficult to stop the aggressor.
Молдова навіть думати про це не хоче, бо збройних сил в них майже немає.
Moldova does not even want to think about it because they have almost no armed forces, and this will not be an exaggeration. We know perfectly well that they do not have tanks and did not have any. Back in the 1990s, when the Transnistria war only began, this demonstrated that the separatist region had more serious weapons than the state itself. Secondly, they have no air defense at all. Now they're almost doubling the military budget for the current year, which will be invested in air defense by almost 90%.
US President Joe Biden will visit Poland on February the 20th, according to the White House. There he will meet his Polish counterpart, Andrzej Duda. Among the main topics of discussion, assistance to Kyiv in the fight against Russian aggression and the strengthening of NATO. Their plans also include a meeting between Joe Biden and the leaders of the Bucharest Nine countries, which includes the countries of the eastern flank of the North Atlantic Alliance.
In addition, President Biden will deliver remarks ahead of the one-year anniversary of Russia's brutal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, addressing how the United States has rallied the world to support the people of Ukraine as they defend their freedom and democracy, and how we will continue to stand with the people of Ukraine for as long as it takes.
The National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications, John Kirby, says the US president's visit should demonstrate unity with allies in the coming months of a possible new escalation in Ukraine.
In the aggregate, we all would like to see this war end today. We'd like to see it end right now, in other words, without having to go to the negotiating table. That doesn't appear to be in the offing, as Mr. Putin just over the last 24 hours flew dozens more cruise missiles into civilian targets into Ukraine, knocking out heat and power across the country. So absent that, we're going to have to stay at the task of supporting Ukraine so that they can succeed at the battlefield. So that if and when President Zelensky has determined it's time to negotiate and sit down at the table to solve this diplomatically, he can do it with the wind at his back. He can do it with the strength that he knows he's going to need in that negotiation. So it's really up to President Zelensky to determine if and when negotiations are appropriate, and certainly under what circumstances. As President Biden has said countless times, nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine.
The White House officials have been preparing for weeks for the anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, including preparing a potentially important appeal to the European public, Reuters reports. Reported by Pavlo Štelmach, Yulia Bezborodko, UATV News.